And welcome back, students, as we get into yet another lesson in Python. Today we are going to discuss that of the string type. Now, believe it or not, we have already seen strings in action. We just maybe haven't defined a string. So, for example, back in our early days, we did like print, quote, hello world. And this text that's in quotes inside of the print statement is actually a string. Now, what is a string, you might answer? Well, a string is simply just a string or a large group or small group, if you will, of characters. A character is simply just a single, symbol off of your keyboard in the ASCII character set. So like the capital H, the E, the LL, all that stuff, those are all going to be characters. But when you combine it all together, this is a string. Now, a string, of course, can technically be of any length. It could be 5 characters, it could be of 1 character, it could technically even be of 0 characters. I could have this just be a empty string like this. I could just have double quotes. Boom. And if I were to run that, it would just print out nothing. You could also, of course, just do a space. A space is also technically a character. So don't forget about that. That's one thing to really important to remember is that a space is a character. Do not forget that. That's a common mistake that people will make when they're first learning about languages like this, is that they're like, okay, I'm going to count the number of characters, how many characters is a word. Okay, like, well, hello world, okay, there's 5 in hello, there's 5 in world, so, oh, that's a 10-character string. But it's actually 11 because you have the space between hello and world. So good things to keep in mind there. Now, if I actually want to, let's say, make a string on its own, it's very, very similar to how I've been doing it with integers and doubles that we've been doing in Python. We simply can just create it. So let's just go ahead and say name equals myself. Print, and I'm going to say name. If we run that, you can see it outputs myself. Because again, Python, unlike other languages, is quite intuitive. In languages such as like C#, I would have to say like string, and then I'd have to give it a name, so name, and then have that equal, quote, myself. All right. And of course, use like a semicolon or whatever. Now, this, of course, doesn't have to be a concern in Python. Python, you simply are just going to give the name of the variable object you want, in this case, name, and you're going to set it equal to a value. That's it. It's really simple and easy to use strings in that of Python. As I've already mentioned, you can, of course, use different things within Python. Back when we talked about the first lesson, we talked about, for example, like the new line character. I could do /n inside of a string, which simply just puts on a new line. I can do /t, tabs it over. I can do /single quote, adds a single quote. I can do /double quote, adds a double quote. So those are all things that we can do inside of the program. Now, one thing I do want to show is that, of course, just like before, when we took variables, we could add them together. We can kind of take strings and almost add them together. Now, you're not going to get a numeric result, so to speak. But if I have, for example, let's say last name is the name of my other string. And I'm going to say myself, and I'm going to have the other one be just, how about myself and I. All right, so myself is this, and I is that. Now, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to, for now, put them inside a print of name plus last name. All right, save and hit F5, and you can see I get myself and I, all as one word. That is what happens when I try to add strings. And this is sometimes very handy because you want to be able to concatenate is the word, which means to join together 2 strings of different values. So I wanted, in this case, join name and last name. So it joined myself and I. And so it put it all together as one string. Now, the thing about this is that you'll notice there's no spacing. So if I wanted, let's say, to have a space here with and I, well, that's pretty easy to do. I can put that in there, and if I run the program, you can see I get myself and I. However, there's no space between myself and. And you might wonder, well, why is there not space there? Well, if you look back at myself, did we put a space in the string name? No, there's no space in here. So if I want to have a space here between myself and, all I got to do is come here, add a space, hit save, run, and now you get myself and I. And of course, we can modify a string past this. Now at this point, I've just printed out. I haven't actually made changes to name and last name. So let's say I want to say full name. All right, full name equals quote. I'm going to say me space quote, and then I'm going to add name and add last name. Now you notice with this one, I can of course join right in here the value me. I don't know what me belongs to, but I can do that. And then of course I can just print full name. Okay, so I got me. It should be me, myself, and I when I run this. So let's go ahead and run the module. And we get me, myself, and I. All right, this is the other print statement that we had before, myself and I. So this is right here. Then of course we made full name, which is me, plus name plus last name. So it didn't do anything with this. In fact, if I just take this line of code right out of here and run it again, we just get me, myself, and I. Because that print statement that wasn't there, again, it's just like we saw with variables, it doesn't actually change anything with name or last name. It simply just goes ahead and prints it out. Now, if I wanted to change any of these values, I could, of course, go back up in here and change one of those values. Or I could come by later and say, hey, before we get to full name, I want to change, let's say, myself. So we can say name is equal to you. Okay, so now I have you in here. So let's just run this. So now it says me, you, and I. And it's because I went to name and I changed the value from myself to you, just like we did when we worked with variables. So this is all you really need to know for strings for now. It's a quick introduction, a lot easier than how you might manage it in some other programming languages. And we're not going to get into all the various different methods and things that you have to do in order to kind of work with those objects. For now, we're just kind of getting a basic overview of some of these things. So that's it for now, folks, and I will see you next time.